I never imagined I'd be the type of woman to pause at her own bedroom door. Not due to misplaced keys. Not due to any lapse in memory, yet fear gripped me about what or who awaited beyond. That night I remained still. I gripped the doorknob, my heart pounded, echoing through the hallway. What of the silence enveloping me? It was dense. A silence that weighs on your ears, amplifying your thoughts beyond reason. I was unaware that my life was on the brink of transformation. Silence prevails. Unprepared for the moment, a mere flash, a fleeting view of the forbidden. It began with Evan's actions. My stepson, Evan. Hold on, before your imagination takes off, there's something you need to grasp. This story isn't simple to share. It lacks a carefree spirit. It's not charming. It's definitely not straightforward. A tale that twists your insides. The type that stirs you awake at 3 a.m., leaving you in darkness pondering, how did I end up here? I'm no villain. This wasn't in my plans. This wasn't my request. Just a woman. A woman lonely for ages, had forgotten the warmth of being seen. And Evan, he noticed me. Yet I'm jumping the gun. Allow me to rewind, not quite at the precise moment but rather at what brought me to it. Toward that door. The pause, the decision. Have you ever seen a house that seems flawless from the outside? Beautiful yard, tidy path, blooms on the steps? Yet within it's merely a gathering of facades? That was my sanctuary. A husband consumed by work. Someone spoke to me as if we were colleagues. No one had laid a hand on me. Deeply moved, nearly 2 years. I once tallied the number of times he glanced my way each week. I lost track in the end. Then Evan arrived. 19, courteous, considerate, yet reserved. He relocated following some conflicts with his mother. I kept silent. It wasn't my role to inquire. Yet at times his eyes held a certain gaze, as if he bore a great weight as well. Isn't it amusing how broken souls can recognize one another? I maintained my distance. I had no choice. I was his stepmom. I prepared a meal, freshened up, inquired about his courses, kept to my path. Up until that night, that fleeting instant, I stumbled upon a secret not meant for my eyes. Seeing Evan in such a vulnerable moment left me breathless. What intensified the situation? What truly hurt the most? Did that include me? I wish I could claim I walked away and let it slip from my mind. I wish I could claim I faced him. So much to say, yet silence remains. Yet the reality? The reality is more complicated. If you've ever felt solitude, completely isolated, surrounded by others. If you've ever glanced in a mirror and felt like a stranger looking back. If you've ever yearned for a fleeting connection so intensely it frightened you. Perhaps, just perhaps, you'll grasp how events transpired as they did. Before I continue, if you've ever borne a secret that weighed on your heart daily, if you've ever felt the urge to shout the truth but worried about the aftermath, smash that like button. Welcome to Shocking Infidelity Saga, where real stories challenge your beliefs about love, loyalty, and the human heart. Join us and be part of our heartfelt community. No judgment here. Let's revisit that night. Into the corridor. Into the quiet. At the door, uncertainty lingered, yet it happened regardless. I once thought being a stepmom would bring warmth, soft and tender, a gentle embrace, fostering growth in another, providing direction, a gentle refuge. Yet it merely seemed like another item on a checklist. Pick up groceries, wash clothes, touch base with Evan, grin at the table, silence enveloping the air. Age 38. 7 years of marriage. I once believed I was fortunate. My husband, Mark, is successful. He delivers. Ensured a cozy home, 2 vehicles, coverage, and a future plan. Yet he ceased to gaze my way. Ages passed. I doubt it was personal at all. He seems to have simply forgotten how, lost the way to make me feel important, how to engage with me without glancing at his phone mid-conversation, how to sit beside me and avoid the vibe of mere coworkers in a break room. He travels frequently. Work journeys, meetings that stretch into the night. Occasionally he texts to see how things are. Times he fails to do so. Yet what pained me most was the silence that enveloped the house. Not from tranquility but from separation. The silence thickened with Evan's arrival. Evan is 19 years old. Mark's first marriage son. He was never meant to stay with us. He lived his own life, followed his own beat, and navigated a tangled bond with his mother. Yet, an unspoken event lingered between them, a topic avoided by all. Suddenly, he was hauling in boxes and arranging them in the guest room down the hall. Initially, I was unsure of my feelings. He's not my son, you know. Yet, a sense of responsibility lingered within me. I began preparing more dinners. Notes stuck to the fridge. Inquiring about his classes, only to receive a shrug or a quiet "it's fine." He remained silent, courteous, and deferential. Yet, a sadness lingered within him. He bore a heavier burden than most at his age. Occasionally, I'd notice him observing me, not in an unsettling way, just uniquely. It was as if he glimpsed the truth behind my facade. Perhaps that was my greatest fear. Mark had become a ghost in my life. I was more than the makeup and the rehearsed grins. Not the woman who wept in the shower, seeking to release the inexplicable. Evan was quiet. Yet his silence carried a different weight than Mark's. Kept me in. It beckoned me inside. The house offered no solace. Vast, pristine, and frigid, everything is perfectly in order. Not a photo frame flipped upside down. One would expect such a place to exude safety and comfort. Seemed more like a museum. We were merely acting, maintaining a facade, hesitant to confront anything genuine. At the dining table, 3 chairs occupied, yet the room echoed with emptiness. Mark scrolled through emails, nibbling in between. Evan focused intently on his plate. What about me? I would grin. I'd engage in casual conversation. I'd inquire about each person's day. Afterward, I would quietly clear the dishes, just like before. At times, I lingered at the sink, sponge in hand, gazing out the window long after the dishes were done, drifting through thoughts unanchored, embracing the silence around me, uncertain when the change began. When Evan's presence shifted from intrusion to reflection, perhaps it was his quiet gratitude after meals, a gesture unnoticed by others, or how he'd see if I switched something minor like a new necklace or a different hair part. Perhaps it was simply that he noticed me, not how a man gazes at a woman, not at this moment, yet how one gazes at another, truly perceiving their flaws. It was a dangerous illusion, born of loneliness. One I should have stopped before it took form. Such matters, such focus, it creeps in quietly. It leaves you questioning what you've overlooked. Consider how you could experience that once more. One night I returned home sooner than I thought. It happened unexpectedly. The meeting fell through and once more Mark was away. I recall driving into the driveway where darkness reigned, save for the gentle orange light seeping from Evan's upstairs window. The house stood silent, as if pausing in anticipation. I eased the front door open, silent, as if to avoid disturbing the stillness within. Perhaps I simply preferred to keep my return quiet, unsure. The floorboards groaned beneath my steps, a creak that whispers secrets of forbidden places. The living room remained pristine. The sink is empty. The TV is silent, the gentle hush of quiet, as if it's observing you. I went upstairs, wondering if Evan was either doing homework or asleep with the light on. Upon reaching the landing, a sound caught my attention. Not a tune. Silence. Another thing. Gentle. Melodic. Whispery. My heart raced. I promised myself not to intrude on his privacy. I urged myself to keep moving forward, yet something compelled me to pause. The door stood ajar. Only a bit. A sliver of warm light spills into the hallway. I caught whispers meant to stay hidden, and sufficient for my gaze. I had no intention of spying. I had no expectations. My eyes saw it first before my mind could process. He lay on the bed, back arched, hand shifting beneath the blanket. The laptop screen cast a familiar cold light on his face. For a moment, breath escaped me. It wasn't his actions. He was captivated by the screen. I was the one, myself. It took a moment to sink in as it was ancient. A video I almost overlooked. Mark and I, from years past. A private moment captured on a rare night of passion, when passion still existed. I couldn't recall where we kept it. I believed it had vanished. Yet it stood there. Evan watched, observing me. I remained silent. Simply remained still, chilled. A part of me wanted to rush in, grab the laptop and shout. A different part, the one I regret, remained motionless. I retreated, breathless, hands trembling. The corridor constricted, the atmosphere suffocating. I entered my room and closed the door, like a phantom retreating into its lair. Then, I simply stood there, gazing into emptiness, parched lips, pulse quickening. I experienced, repulsed, broken, perplexed. Yet there's more. An unnamed something. The worst part wasn't Evan's gaze on me. The most painful aspect was the way it affected my emotions. Unfazed. Not disgusted, however. Noted. Seeking. I despised myself for it. I perched on my bed's edge, trembling, seeking clarity. What's the deal with that video? How did he discover it? Was he aware I was watching? Did he intend for me to notice? I convinced myself it was just a mistake. He found it by chance. It was meaningless. Yet, beneath it all, I understood more. His gaze had shifted recently. Gentle. Intrigued. I was more than just his stepmother. Clad in a robe, I settled atop the covers that night. Gaze unblinking, gazing at the ceiling, endlessly revisiting the scene. More than my eyes perceived, yet what I sensed. A change had occurred. No matter how much I insisted it was fleeting deep down, I sensed it marked the start of something new. The following morning, I pretended as if nothing occurred. I grinned. Steamed brew, inquired if Evan desired toast. He agreed as he always did. Courteous, serene, as if all was well. Yet everything felt off. Not now. I sat at the kitchen table, steam curling from my cup, my stomach twisting with each passing second. He met my gaze head-on, yet he didn't pursue them either. Sat there eating quietly just like any other day. Perhaps that was the root of the problem, the uncertainty. Did he realize I was watching? Did he feel shame? Did he intend for me to notice? Was it truly a mistake? Is it a cruel twist of fate? All day I tried to erase it from my mind. I tidied up what was already tidy, bookshelves rearranged, pantry reorganized. Yet whenever I shut my eyes it appeared, the picture. That instant. Him, observing me. I convinced myself it was merely curiosity. Perhaps he stumbled upon the video by chance. Perhaps he clicked unknowingly. Yet as time passed, clarity emerged. That wasn't it. It was intentional. It was intentional. What scared me even more than that realization was my own feelings. Amid the chaos, the fear, the embarrassment, a peculiar, haunting excitement lingered. I despised it. I despised myself for it, yet it existed. A strange flutter in my chest, as if something had stirred awake. I began to see details I had overlooked, or perhaps aspects I had simply overlooked. Text. Evan's gaze pierced through me as I crouched to retrieve an item from the low cabinet. He stayed in the kitchen post-dinner, eyes on me as I cleaned. His eyes shifted, not rudely or aggressively, but with intention. It felt as if he was seeing me like no one had in years. Once I saw it, it was forever etched in my mind. It felt like ages since someone gazed at me in that way. Mark once did. At the start of our marriage, in our beginnings. He'd sneak up while I cooked, arms around me, kissing my neck. He vanished between the third and fourth year. His touch was fleeting, a mere brush as he moved by. A gentle touch on the shoulder. A gentle nudge, automated, empty. A touch that conveys, I know I should, so here's a gesture. Yet Evan's glances held depth. Once I understood that, his presence consumed my thoughts. I sensed his presence the moment he entered the room. Even before I looked back, his footsteps dragged as he approached. Gentler. As he spoke, his voice lowered slightly, as if addressing me directly. Beyond my vicinity. What about me? I began to change as well. Initially it was tiny, innocuous, I reassured myself. I allow my robe to drape a bit more freely in the mornings. Opted for tank tops over oversized t-shirts while making breakfast. I did it for myself. I kept reminding myself of that. Yet I was aware that wasn't the case. I found myself in a new style. Take your time. With greater caution, selecting fabrics that hugged in all the right spots. I lingered by the door, hoping he would walk by. Hair loose, warm skin lingers from the shower. I despised myself for it. Yet I pressed on. When our eyes met, those lingering glances in the kitchen or down the hall, I held my gaze. I ought to have. Yet I didn't. I began to desire it instead. Yearning for the spotlight. Such vibrance, the warmth I had long forgotten returned, igniting a spark within me. It had nothing to do with Evan. Initially, no, centered on me. About the sensation of being alive once more. As if I was being watched. Every night as I lay down, guilt surged in like an unstoppable tide. This was incorrect. Completely off. He was the son of my husband. though we were never close. Though our time together was brief, just a few months under one roof, it was irrelevant. Yet, the distinction between the acceptable and the taboo had completely vanished. It stirred the soul, transitioning, growing increasingly difficult to perceive. With each passing day, I sensed myself drawing nearer, glimpse by glimpse. It began with small details, simple wonders seen from a distance, yet, upon closer inspection, their innocence vanished. It happened for the first time as I returned from the store, bags weighing down my arms. The door swung open as I fumbled with the keys, no knock needed. Evan. Initially, he remained silent. He reached out, took the heavier bags, fingers grazing mine. It was fleeting, yet I sensed it. A flicker or perhaps an inquiry. A question we both feared to voice. He brought them into the kitchen and placed them down softly, as if fearing they'd shatter. He gazed at me, truly gazed, and said, "You don't have to face this alone." Half a dozen words. It was just that. Yet they remained by my side. Mark no longer spoke like that. Mark thought I would take care of it all. Shopping, preparing, tidying, planning, grinning. Somehow Evan, just 19, saw more than my husband of 7 years ever did. Then everything shifted in our talks. They delved further. Initially, it was merely casual conversations in the kitchen about music, school, or books. Then he began to ask me genuine questions. My story. My life story, reflecting on my life prior to marrying his father. He listened when I answered. Not with that absent, half-hearted nod. Mark shot my way from behind the laptop. Evan absorbed every word. Inched closer. Met my gaze. Reacted in ways that made me feel understood. I began to anticipate it. For him. One night, Mark was away once more. In the living room, I sipped wine, an old movie flickering gently. Evan entered, paused, then took a seat at the far end of the couch. Silence stretched between us. Silently observed. Suddenly the scene shifted. The couple kissed on screen. Gently. With yearning. My body tightened. I averted my gaze. No need for that. The air shifted around me. Moments later I grabbed the remote. He arrived simultaneously. Fingers brushed. We halted together. Just enough to hold significance. He withdrew his hand. Apologies, he whispered. I shook my head. Yet I remained silent about its acceptance. I was unable to. Simply wasn't. Indeed it was. The touches grew more frequent. Additional. Intentional. A fleeting touch as he handed me the salt. His arm brushed against mine in the cramped hallway. A gentle touch at my back as he moved aside for me to pass through the door. Little details. Simple to justify. I ceased to elaborate. Part of me wished they would keep going. I sought him out. Staying in the kitchen, waiting for his descent. Strolling through the garden at twilight. Sensing his presence nearby. Leaving my bedroom door ajar just a bit. Suddenly the notes began. A book on the couch held the first one. 5 words scrawled in chaos. There's depth beyond their gaze. I gazed at it endlessly. A few days later, the second arrived, tucked beneath the sugar bowl on the kitchen counter. You should be experienced, not merely observed. If I could rewrite time, I'd begin with you. Every note constricted my chest. Not with remorse, but with pain, longing for the unattainable. A desire I ought to resist. They were all tucked away, concealed under dusty scarves and neglected birthday cards. I'd take them out late at night in the stillness and read them as if they were love letters from a life I never knew. While tidying the living room one afternoon, I accidentally toppled Evan's sketchbook. I never intended to open it. I was about to grab it, poised to return it to the shelf. The page was already open. There I stood, pencil sketch. Gentle, thorough. Perched on my bed's edge, I brushed my hair. That moment came back to me. Only a week ago, I was unaware he had been observing. The sketch held my gaze, my hand shook. He captured something deeply personal, profoundly raw. It was as if I were gazing at a forgotten reflection of myself. Not the weary spouse. Not the unseen woman. Yet a longing remained. Did I dream it? Or was he beckoning something? I urged myself to keep my distance. This was perilous. This was incorrect. I was flirting with danger in a tinderbox. Yet I persisted. The door remained open. I kept the notes. The sketch remains untouched. I persisted. Each fleeting moment counts. And beneath it all, I sensed the direction it was taking. The night it unfolded, the sky seethed. Thunder rumbled low, vibrating deep within. The rain pounded fiercely, battering the windows as if desperate to enter. Mark was away once more. A conference now, perhaps a sunny place. I never inquired. The house had changed, not merely silent but electric. Dense, as if pausing in anticipation. At 9, darkness fell. In an instant, complete darkness. Silence where the fridge used to hum. The hallway nightlight is dark, only silence punctuated by rain drumming on the roof. Candles flickered softly, scattered throughout the living room. The light flickered, shadows swayed. Inside me, the turmoil overshadowed the distant storm outside. Evan descended the stairs. Loose sweatpants, damp hair from the shower, no shirt. He stopped, candle in hand, as he caught sight of me. Then smiled faintly. "Are you all right?" he inquired. I nodded, striving to prevent the house from becoming a cave. He sat on the floor opposite me, the candlelight flickering between us on the coffee table. We conversed. At first, it's simple. A storm brings back childhood memories of hiding under blankets, imagining thunder as giants bowling above. I laughed, not for the humor, but for the warmth of his voice, a touch of humanity. Then silence enveloped the space, lengthy and rich, not awkward, merely profound. His gaze pierced through me and I reached my limit. I inquired, gently, almost inaudibly, why that video? He blinked and swallowed. The answer was clear in his eyes before he spoke. "It was the one moment I witnessed you being loved." Those words shattered a barrier within me. A barrier I'd kept sealed for years. I said nothing. I was unable to. I gazed at him, the candlelight dancing between us, shrinking the room into a cocoon of intimacy. He extended his hand cautiously, as if fearing my reaction. His fingers brushed against mine. I stayed close. His fingers brushed against mine, and in that moment, everything else vanished. A tempest brews, remorse lingers, silence stretches on. It was only us, and all the words left unspoken. My eyes ached. Tears lingered unspilled. A tear fell from my eye. He brushed it aside with his thumb. Then only silence. Silence reigns. "Hold on a sec." He kissed me, soft and careful, as if seeking permission. I offered it. I kissed him back, and once that boundary was breached, everything fell apart. I can't recall standing. I can't recall how we transitioned from the living room to the couch. Heat, skin, breath. Those are my only memories. He held me, fragile yet essential. I released all that I believed defined my strength. Our bodies communicated in a forgotten language. In that moment, fear was absent, without doubt. Simply yield. For him, for me, to the woman I once was and the one I never became. We lay there, entwined in silence, the candle flickering dimly. I gazed at the ceiling, my body vibrating, my heart laid bare. And I understood. The moment it ended, I realized everything was different. Turning back was not an option. It's permanent. It happened, no denial, no justification can mend it. We crossed a line that shattered, not blurred. I lost sight of myself. The next morning I avoided his gaze. I rose before dawn, donned my robe and descended, as if fleeing from the past. The candle flickered its last on the table. The couch cushions remained indented. The blanket lay discarded on the floor. The noise overwhelmed me, as if the room were shouting. With trembling hands I brewed coffee. Left it untouched. Simply sought an activity. His footsteps on the stairs made me freeze. When he stood in the doorway, eyes gentle, lips slightly parted as if to speak, I turned my gaze. The hope in his face was too much to bear. Hope signified his belief that something could emerge from this. I couldn't allow him to think that. He lingered briefly, anticipating. I faced away, feigning a scrub of the already clean counter. "Hey," he spoke softly, "is it possible?" "I've got plenty on my plate today," I interrupted. My voice felt off. Concise, trimmed. He hesitated. I averted my gaze. I was unable to. "All right," he replied after a pause. Silence, painful. He turned and left. I collapsed onto a stool, heart racing, stomach churning. What have I done? Every inch of me throbbed. Not merely in body but in a profound, aching manner. It felt as if a part of me had shattered, and I was desperately trying to seal it with trembling fingers. I steered clear of him for the remainder of the day. If I heard him above, I remained below. I lingered in the kitchen, listening for silence before I moved. I convinced myself it was for his sake, yet deep down I was just avoiding the truth. From him, from me, based on our actions. That evening, Mark returned home. His suitcase hit the floor with a thud, and his voice rang out in the house, overly normal, overly cheerful. It sent shivers down my spine. His lips brushed my cheek. I recoiled. He observed. His smile faltered, and I noticed. He remained silent. Instead, he inquired about my dinner preparations. I pushed through serving plates, feigning normalcy. Yet it wasn't. Nothing existed. Evan descended last, more slowly than before. He avoided my gaze. He sat across the table, his meal untouched. I focused intently on my plate throughout. Mark attempted to share his travel experience, inquired with Evan regarding school, cracked jokes that fell flat. No one laughed. Post-dinner, Evan vanished upstairs. Mark's eyes narrowed as he stared at me. Is everything all right? Indeed I did. Way too quick. Feeling drained. He held back. He didn't. Yet I sensed it. He felt a disturbance, insufficient grounds for accusation, just enough to ponder. That night, as Mark reached for me in bed, I flinched once more. I mentioned a headache. He turned away in silence, drifted off. I lay in the dark, eyes on the ceiling, feeling the storm within me. The following days deteriorated further. Evan hardly said a word to me. His eyes, once warm, now carried confusion and betrayal. I offered him a gift, then took it back. I'd let him think there was an opening, then I'd slam it closed. He felt no anger. He felt warmth. He was merely pain. It shattered me. I attempted to wipe it away. Yet every room echoed our actions. The sofa, the corridor, the steps ascend. In the bathroom mirror, I glimpsed a stranger in my reflection. I moved through life, a mere echo of who I once was. The weight of guilt bore down on me just as the ache did, the pain of a truth that never was, yet lingered still. No one to confide in. Not my pals, not my spouse, not even I, truly. I donned the guilt, a scent clinging to me unseen by many, yet ever present. And Evan, he grew silent, receded, as if shielding himself from the backlash of my decisions. Or perhaps he finally recognized my true self. A woman adrift in her own void, yearning for warmth, even if it sears. The next morning I avoided his gaze. I rose before dawn, donned my robe and descended, as if fleeing from the past. The candle flickered its last on the table. The couch cushions remained indented. The blanket lay discarded on the floor. The noise overwhelmed me, as if the room were shouting. With trembling hands I brewed coffee, left it untouched, just looking for a way to pass the time. His footsteps on the stairs made me freeze. As he stood in the doorway, eyes gentle, lips slightly parted as if to speak, I turned my gaze away. The hope in his face was too much to bear. Hope signified his belief that something could arise from this. I couldn't allow him to think that. He lingered briefly, anticipating. I faced away, feigning a scrub of the already clean counter. Hey, he spoke softly. Is it possible? I've got plenty on my plate today, I interjected. My voice felt off. Compact, trimmed. He stopped. I averted my gaze. I was unable to. All right, he replied after a pause. Silence. Wounded. He turned and left. I collapsed onto a stool, heart racing, stomach churning. What have I done? Every inch of me throbbed. Not merely in body but in a profound, aching manner. As if a part of me had shattered, and I was desperately trying to seal it with trembling fingers. I steered clear of him for the remainder of the day. If I heard him above, I remained below. I lingered in the kitchen, listening for silence before moving. I convinced myself it was for his own good. Yet, the reality was I was concealing myself. From him, from me, based on our actions. That evening Mark returned home. His suitcase hit the floor with a thud. His voice resonated within the walls. Excessively ordinary, excessively upbeat. It sent chills down my spine. He pressed his lips to my cheek. I recoiled. He observed. His smile faltered, revealing everything. He remained silent. Instead, he inquired about my dinner preparations. I pushed through serving plates, feigning normalcy, yet it wasn't. Nothing existed. Evan descended last, more slowly than before. He avoided my gaze. He sat across the table, food untouched. I focused intently on my plate the entire time. Mark attempted to share his travel experiences, inquired with Evan regarding school, cracked jokes that fell flat. No one laughed. Post-dinner, Evan vanished upstairs. Mark's eyes narrowed as he stared at me. Is everything all right? Indeed, I mentioned it was too quick. Exhausted. He held back. He didn't. Yet I sensed it. He felt a disturbance, insufficient grounds for accusation, just enough to ponder. That night, as Mark reached for me in bed, I recoiled once more. I mentioned a headache. Silently, he turned away, drifted off. In the darkness, I lay still, eyes fixed on the ceiling, feeling the tempest within me rise. The coming days grew darker. Evan hardly said a word to me. His eyes, once warm, now bore the weight of confusion and betrayal. I offered him a gift, then took it back. I'd let him think there was a way in, then I'd slam it shut. He felt no anger. He felt warmth. He was simply wounded. It shattered me. I attempted to wipe it away. Yet each room murmured our secrets. The sofa, the corridor, the steps ascend. In the bathroom, the mirror revealed a stranger in my reflection. I moved through life, a mere echo of who I once was. The guilt weighed heavily, yet the ache lingered. The pain of a truth that never was, yet felt so genuine. No one to confide in. Not my pals, not my spouse, not even I, truly. I donned the guilt, a scent clinging to me unseen by many, yet ever present. And Evan, he grew silent, receded, as if shielding himself from the repercussions of my decisions. Or perhaps he finally recognized my true self. A woman adrift in her own void, yearning for warmth, even if it scorched. This is my secret. Not even my therapist can help. It has dwelled within me for ages, pushing against my ribs like a secret desperate to escape. Tonight I had to set it free. Unforgiving, beyond salvation, simply to be acknowledged. At times, the burden we bear in solitude outweighs the sin itself. I'm done holding this in. Did I make a mistake with what occurred? Was I merely human, yearning for recognition? To feel a connection? To experience emotion after years of numbness? I'm still unsure. Yet I'm aware of this. It's simple to declare intentions until you find yourself in that hallway. Fingers poised on the knob. Your heart shatters within, revealing depths you never knew existed. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever crossed an irreversible line? Have you ever gazed into the mirror and questioned, who am I now? What would you do if you were me? If this tale resonated within you, if it caused you to stop, to feel, to recall a part of yourself long hidden, share it freely. Enjoy this video. Pass it on to someone who may be bearing their own unseen burden. Subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga, where we unveil the secrets people keep hidden. We all harbor untold stories that frighten us. Perhaps in the telling, healing finds its start. Above all, hold on to this key point from our discussion tonight. Loneliness is a perilous craving. Neglect it, deny its presence, and it will begin to consume what's near. Even if it's taboo, even if it was never meant to be touched, even if it breaks you. Act now, don't linger in the shadows. Talk, experience, extend, before the quiet consumes you whole.